All right, so today I'm going to make a custom leaderboard as opposed to using the Roblox leaderboard that comes right out of the box. That's the one that comes up here, but it's really easy to use. The Roblox one is really easy to use. This is going to be a little more challenging, but you can do more with it. So let's go to our starter GUI and get started. Let's add a screen GUI and then a frame. Where should we put our leaderboard? Let's go ahead and name it first. Let's call it leader frame. And maybe we'll change the size a little bit. I do everything on these properties. You guys probably will just drag it in place and stuff. That's fine. Let's do 0.2 and 0 on the X. So it scales 20% of the screen. And then 0.5 and 0 on the Y. That's pretty big, but I think I'll keep it like that. Let's see, for our position, let's move it over a little bit. Cool. If you go and play it, you can take a look, see how it looks. Now, we're not going to leave it like a white box and everything, right? I just want to kind of see that it doesn't get involved with the chat window and stuff. Cool, cool. All right, let's add a really handy component called the UI list layout. And that's really cool for stacking stuff automatically. And we want our rows to add when players enter the game. We don't want to have to calculate that out. That would be hard. But I'm going to put another frame for the header. We'll say header frame. And let's change the size of that. See that position? See that little red thing? It says the position is controlled. There it is. Header frame position is overridden by UI list layout. That's going to be very helpful. And I'll show you how that works. Let's see. Let's change the size of this to 1 and 0 so that it spans the entire leader frame on the X, but only 10% of the frame on the Y. So 0.1 and 0, because I want 10 rows total, right? So now with the UI list layout, if I duplicate these rows, see how it puts them in order? That's cool. And I'll put it exactly. I'll do it one more. Boom. 10 exactly. That's pretty awesome. Let's do Control Z and get rid of those because we're going to add them when players enter the game, right? This is just going to be our header frame. On the header frame, let's add a text label and we'll add 3 of these, one for name, one for money, one for XP. You can do whatever you want when you're playing around with it, but this will be good for the video. For the size of that label, I'm on header frame, get text label. And for the size of the text label, it's in pixels. Let's make it 1 and 0 for the X, not 1 and 0, that's too big. Let's make it 0.34 on the X, 0 pixel offset. And on the Y, I'll make it 1, which is 100% of that header frame, and 0 on the pixel offset. Cool. That'll be a good little name label. Let's do a Control D, and that just duplicated in place. That size, I'm going to make it slightly smaller. I'm going to make that 0.33 on the X and 0 pixel offset because I want to have 3 and I want it to add up to 1. So I don't want to make it 0.333333 like that. I'll just do 0.34, 0.33, 0.33. Cool. And then position, I need to move it a little bit. So I'm going to move it on the X 0.34 so it starts where the other one ends. Cool. Control D, duplicate that. And I'm going to make this 0.67. Oh, that'll be good. Yeah, that's perfect. Good. So it'll span it. That looks good. Let's make these make sense. So I'll have name label, and then we'll go ahead and make this money label. And then we'll make this XP label. Cool. Let's change the text. Go down to the text. Where does it say label? Right here, text. I'm going to call that XP. Go up to the money one. I'm going to call that money. And then we'll go to the name and we'll call that name. All right, let's change the transparency of these labels I think I'll make it 0.7% or 0.7 transparency. Right? You can't see it because now everything's white, right? But we'll change that. Background color, I'll make it this green. And then for the header frame and the leader frame, transparency, I'm going to make 1. Now you just see this, and then you're going to have rows that appear when players come in the game. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. I'm going to duplicate this. Control D on header frame. I'm going to move that in replicated storage. You could put it in server storage, but I use replicated storage when I'm using things on the server and on the UI, right? So both client and server can see replicated storage. And I'm going to call this player row. Cool. And then these right here on the starter GUI, the header frame here, I'm going to make that bold because that's a header, right? Let's see, bold. Cool. All right, now we can start scripting. Every time somebody comes in, this row in replicated storage is going to get added right underneath, and it's going to be really cool. It's going to be a leaderboard. So let's go to our server script service and add a script. I'm going to call this leader. All right, maybe make that a little bigger. And I need replicated storage, so I'm going to make a variable for that. Local rs game get service replicated storage. And I'm going to do my starter GUI here. Right now, the starter GUI is added to the player when the player enters the game. It's cloned to the player. So anything you change in the starter GUI, it's only going to affect people entering the game. Right? And you're going to see the problem there. I'm going to try and solve. Well, that I will solve. So this is starter GUI. Cool. And then I'm going to get the screen GUI from the starter GUI. Right? Starter GUI. Wait for child. Screen GUI. Cool. So this is going to be for people entering the game to get the row. All right, let's make a function. Local function, add row to players. Player will be passed in. We're going to get the frame. We're going to start out with our replicated storage, wait for child, our player row. That's the first thing we need to get, our player row. Oops, make sure, you see that? I had a spelling error. Make sure this player row is spelled the same as that player row, or you'll get an infinite yield, right? Now I'm going to loop through. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to loop through all the players that are already playing, and I'm going to add that row. This is somebody entering the game. For INP in pairs, let's go ahead and get game players. Get children, that's all the people who are playing. Do local P GUI. This is for each individual player. So each individual player is the P. We're not going to use the I. So what you could do, put an underscore. That's the convention if you're not going to use that first I. So this is a key value pair. And the I is just going to be numbers. P is the player that's in the player service. So we'll say wait for child of each player. We're going to get the player GUI, right? Because this is for people who are already playing. Screen GUI won't affect them, right? And then we'll do S GUI. From the P GUI, wait for child. And that's the screen GUI on the player GUI. Right? This is why you use a Roblox one. But if you really want to have a kind of a cool leaderboard, you got to do this. You have to make your own. So we'll say local, and then I'm going to clone the frame. Right? So we have our FRM clone because I'm going to put it on each player. And then I'm going to get my clone frame. The name, I'm going to make it the player name so I can find it easy. Right? Clone frame, and now I have my name label. There's a text involved with that. That's also going to be the player name. I'll have my clone frame money label, text, and we'll just initialize that to 0. Clone frame XP label text, initialize to 0. Now pay attention to this one. Clone frame parent, right? So we created this frame. Now we have to put it on the player. Well, the S GUI is the screen GUI for each individual player. We're going to loop through them all, and we will add a leader frame to that. We will make our player row parent the leader frame. So we're going to add the row to the leader frame. That gets a little confusing, I know. But what about people entering the game after this has already happened? Well, let's copy all of this after our for loop. And now, whoops, let's get this too. Let's clone it because that's outside of scope. Boom. Cool beans. Now, screen GUI is on the starter GUI. So now people coming into the game will get all the players that are already playing. Cool. That's complicated, I know. All right. Let's go ahead and test it. We'll just test it with one player though. So game players, player added, connect, add row 2 players. The player will be passed in with that call as an argument. Let's check it out. Cool beans, there I am. All right, all right. So when someone leaves, we have to take care of that situation. All right, so it's going to be very similar. Let's go ahead and make it. Let's go ahead and make our remove, what did I call that? Add row 2 players. So this one I'm going to say remove row from players. Right, and then we'll have a player that gets passed in. Move this up. We'll say local leader frame screen GUI. We're going to take care of our screen GUI so that the people coming in will no longer get a row for people who already quit. Screen GUI wait for child leader frame. And then I'll just do this all in one line. Leader frame, wait for child. Oh, and it's the player name as the player row, right? We called it player name when we created it, when we cloned it so that we could find it easy. And then I'm just going to destroy it right here. Destroy. Sometimes I write destroy. Cool, now we got to loop through our players too. So this is going to be similar to this. Let's get these 3 rows right here. These are going to be the same. Let's go down here and add them. Cool. So this is the player GUI we're dealing with. This is people who are already playing. But one little caveat. The guy leaving, if we do this, whoops, I want that end there. The guy leaving might not have a player GUI available. So let's check to make sure that that P is not the player themselves, right? And I'll move this, I'll put an end here, and then let's format this text. There we go, that looks good. Oh, let's put another end down here because this got moved, right? Format, there we go. All right, let's finish our loop. Let's go ahead, after we get the screen GUI, let's get our leader frame from the S GUI. Whew, this is getting hard. There we go, S GUI. Wait for child leader frame. And we gotta get one more thing because on the leader frame, now we have our row. L frame, wait for child. Ooh, and that's the player name, right? So this is taking the row off of all the people currently playing. This is taking the row off of people who will join later, right? Do I got everything? I think I do. Oh, the most important part, row destroy. There we go. Now we're set. So So we destroyed it from the starter GUI. We destroyed it from every player that's playing in the player GUI. Let's go ahead and check that out. Let's go ahead and say game, players, player removing, connect, remove row from players. All right, now I'm going to check this with the server, the test server. I'm going to use 2 players. I'm going to hit the start button. It takes a minute, so I'm going to pause the video while it's starting. All right, there's our first guy. He joined. We should get a second one. Is he down here? Ah, here it is. Ah, there's the second one, right? And then the other guy should get it too. So now when one leaves, one of these should disappear. So let's go ahead and, who is this guy right here? Let's go ahead and get rid of one. Ah, see that? And then remove from the other one. That's perfect. That's perfect. All right, now you're like, okay, so great. I have one of these custom leaderboards. How do I update it? How do I get points into it? Well, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to server script service. I'm going to do a module script. So module scripts are scripts you can call from other scripts. So I'll call this leader utils, right? And then let me go ahead. I'll do this lowercase. Leader utils. Copy that. Put that there. And now we need to make a function that we can call from things that want to give our leaderboard points. Let's do that. Let's go say function leader utils. I'm going to use this colon here. Update board. We'll pass in the player. We'll pass in the money. We'll pass in XP. All right. And I'm going to do a for loop. I'll use this little, what do you call it, underscore, because I'm not going to use the I, but I'm going to do a for underscore and P in pairs, because I want to get all my players from the game service. Game players. Get children. Do. Local. P GUI equals P, wait for, child. Player GUI. Local. S GUI equals S, what is it, P GUI. Wait for child. Screen GUI. And local L frame. S GUI. Wait for child. Leader frame. Local row. All right, we'll say L frame. Wait for child. Oh, and that's going to be the player name. Player.name. Cool. And now let's update the text. So we'll say row dot money label text equals money plus to number, because now we're dealing with numbers. We're going to do an addition. So then I'll do this. So whatever was already on there, boom, we're going to add to it. Row. I'm going to do the same for XP. Oh, I should just copy that row. XP equals, whoops, plus to number. I'll just do that. Copy, paste. Nice. So that should work. Now we need something. Oh, you know what? Players entering the game need to get the updated scores for the people who are already playing. So once again, let's take a look at our leader over here, right? We need something like this. Copy. There we go. And then, let's see, we got that. I'm gonna have to change that S GUI. Let's go like that. This S GUI needs to be this screen GUI. So this is updating the stuff in the starter GUI so that they get the updated scores for people who, when you're joining the game, for people who are already playing the game. Cool. That's making it a little bit complicated. That's why a lot of people use the Roblox default leaderboard. Now let's make something for points, right? So we need to test this. Let's go to our workspace and add a part. And the part, let's take a look at it. This is gonna be gold. It's gonna be like money. Let's call it a gold bar. Cool. And we'll make it yellow for gold. I could make it shiny too, right? Metal. There's metal. All right. And then let's put a little script on there. We'll call it script treasure. Did I spell treasure right? Treasure. There we go. Local bar script.parent. And we need to include our leader utils. Leader utils. Oops, I spelled GUI so many times. Require. This is how you get a module script into your other script. Game server script service. Leader utils. Local function pickup. And we'll say other part. That's the part touching. It's going to be a touch event. Local player. We'll just go ahead and do game players get player from character. Because if this is a foot or a hand or something that touches the part, other part dot parent. Let's make this smaller so I can fit it all on. Could be a character. It could be a ball or something like that. But if it is a ball, this is going to be nil. If it's a character, it's going to have a value. So then we'll just do if player, then leader utils update board the player that touched, and we'll give it a money and an XP associated with it. Let's destroy the bar too. So we'll say destroy when we touch it, right? And then we'll go ahead and do the bar touched connect pickup and get rid of those 2 extra parentheses that it adds. All right, let's do a couple bars. I have a bar here, Control D. There we go. All right, now we'll do our test server. Here we go, things are starting up. All right, we got one. And we got 2 people. This one's still a little bit waiting for stuff. There we go. Let's go ahead and see if our player can pick it up. Oh, there we go, 5 and 10. 2 and, or 5, yeah, you know what I meant. Let's go ahead and get this one. Or 1, yeah, 1 and 5. Cool beans. So now we got points. The only thing we got to test is if somebody else starts, if they enter the game, they're going to get all these values. And I'll test that before I put this video up so that we know that it works.